Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. Pleased to have in the studio with us the CEO of Lifeline Community Services, Lisette Islas. How you doing, Lisette?
I'm very pleased to be here with you today.
Well, we're honored to have you in here, joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel, in her third year now, co-hosting the Spotlight on the Community Show. She is the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc. 3 years, Kristen, what do you think?
I think that party should be any day now.
There should be any day. I'm honored.
Keep showing up.
Hope you're enjoying it as much as I'm having you.
Despite the party, I'm enjoying it.
Okay, despite the party, we're enjoying it. Let's get kicked off with a question for Lisette.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the mission and maybe how some of the core programs support that mission.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lifeline has been around for almost 53 years.
Wow.
And we were founded specifically in the city of Vista with a focus on youth and really about creating opportunities for young people. And so as the years have gone by, we have evolved, but still have a very strong focus on youth. We are now county-wide, although very specifically continue to be rooted in North County.
Okay.
And we work at the intersection of behavioral health and economic empowerment. So what does that mean, or what does that look like? We provide a number of services and programs for young people and their families that really run along the spectrum of services for mental health or behavioral health. So it could be anything like suicide prevention workshops to providing therapy for young people, or working with young people who are perhaps dabbling with or addicted to drugs and alcohol. And so we see them as part of a larger family unit. And so we work with the young people, specifically give them tools and such, but also work with their families, because if the family isn't shored up, then it's really challenging for the young person to create change in their life. That being said, we also understand that the biggest source of, or the root of many of the social ills that we see today is the lack of economic stability. And so we continue to work with families in helping people get education or get on that career ladder to give them stronger and stronger economic opportunities. And so bringing that stability to the family that is often needed.
So do you work closely with the schools?
Absolutely.
Countywide, okay. And, with the County Office of Education or the different districts, or both?
We work with various school districts all along the county.
Yeah, one of the groups that near and dear to my heart, I've been involved with them since 1997, is the Classroom of the Future Foundation, which for years works with all the 43 school districts. Our focus is on college and career pathways, and we're working with those districts with a lot of the students that, that's not been in their mindset to think about careers. And of course, they shouldn't be thinking about it as young as TK, for God's sake, in that area. So I'm sure there's some intersection that down the road. Talk about how you work with those districts in that area.
Yeah, we have various partnerships with the school district. So it depends on, it's a mix of both contracts that we have or funding that we have and the programs that align with them, but also the specific needs of that school district. So what we do is really try to develop relationships and figure out what are the specific needs of this district or this school, and then the students within them. And our team, what I'm really proud of is our team really tailors the services to specific families. So what does that mean? So one of the areas that we work in is human trafficking. And many people don't know that San Diego is huge for human trafficking. Yeah. And so, and if you're not in this space, you're not aware of it, and it can often be happening in plain sight, but we just don't know, right?
100% correct.
Yeah, what are the cues that we're looking for? And so I'm really proud to say that Lifeline is one of the largest providers in this area, working to both fight human trafficking, but also helping survivors. And so we work with people every step of the way. often when survivors get out of the situation of trafficking, their identity has been stolen from them. And so they, we think like, well, what does it take to get your identity? Well, imagine going to the DMV and saying, well, I'm Lisette Islas, but I have no way of proving that. And so we work with them to regain their identity. We work with them to build their credit, because often their credit has been stolen at the same time that their identity has been taken from them. And then we work with them to get that first job, the second job, etc. And getting them shored up enough so that then they can afford an apartment on their own. They don't have to live in our housing, or they can scale up their housing. And so that's something that we're really proud of. But that also means that we work with every individual family in a very unique way. And often when we think about therapy, we think about the stereotypical, right? Sitting on a couch, your legs up. And this is not what it's about. We could be walking through one of our Target or any other store as we talk to people about their individual situation. They see it as we're chit-chatting. But we know that we're conducting a therapy session, much like we could be teaching kids how to play the drums, and we're conducting therapy. So we really figure out how to tailor strategies to the needs that people have, and then we handhold them. So oftentimes, last week I heard a story about one of our staff members. She knew that a mom had to go to a doctor appointment with a child that was very sick, and they were going to go through some intense testing. She had 2 children. So she said, how about I go and I take care of the second child while you're in with the first child? And then afterwards, she just took them to a restaurant and chatted with the kids, and also told the mom, that was really hard. Would you like to talk about it? And oftentimes just acknowledging that people are having a hard time. We face this in our own lives. Having someone show that they care and acknowledge what you've been through is enough, right? So our team really tailors its services to the specific needs of the families or whichever group we might be working with.
Yeah, we're chatting with Lisette Islas, is the CEO of Lifeline Community Services. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 19th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades is just doing spectacular things for people living in San Diego County: food insecurity, Alzheimer's, visual performing arts, financial literacy, doing a great job. Joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel. She is the executive director of San Diego Writers Inc. Kristen?
Yeah, this sounds like a massive undertaking, right? So how many staff do you have? Do you have volunteers that support your efforts? What does that look like?
Yeah, we have roughly about 150 staff members. And we have many more volunteers than we do have staff. Meaning, last year we had over 200 volunteers, and they're not one-time volunteers. They're people that tend to come and support programs week after week. I think that we have the best volunteer game in town. So if anyone wants to spend some time with us, we'd love to have you. Honestly, whether it's a one-time effort or you can afford to give us more time, it's a very meaningful experience, both for the clients that we serve, but also for the volunteers that participate with us.
And what does the volunteer program kind of look like? Do you have to have a background in behavioral health? Do you have, what sort of skill set, if any, do you need to volunteer?
Absolutely no background in behavioral health needed. We look at, what your interests are, what your strengths are, and then we match you up. Sometimes people spend time with us in our after-school programs. We have an after-school program for kids in the K-6 system in Oceanside, and we also have another program for kids in the 7th through 12th grade. So after-school tutors, people that are just willing to go and play with the children or help us, make sure that things are organized. Other times it's helping us organize our holiday food drives or our holiday gift drives. So lots of different opportunities for people just to use, the skills that we use to navigate life on an everyday basis are really meaningful to us as we do our work.
Yeah, we've talked quite a bit, as Kristen knows, with mental health folks in the show here. And we all know that unless you are living in a different solar system, mental health has been in a crisis situation way before them. Everyone wants to blame the pandemic. Yeah, certainly it exasperated it, but this was coming way beforehand. And there are 60,000 different reasons for it. I'm preaching to the congregation and the experts in it, like you on this, and especially with youth. We've never seen the numbers of youth, meaning K through 12 kids, even younger, that need this type of health. Talk about that.
Yeah, I think that, I couldn't agree with you more. The pandemic, I think, made us aware.
Correct.
Right? It gave us common awareness and common language, really, to talk about what was happening. And in that way, I think it was, that's one of the silver linings, right? That came out of that.
Correct.
That we are willing to acknowledge and talk about and own that all of us have mental health struggles at some point in our lives. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's something to really seek out support for, much like we do for anything else that might be going on in our life. And I do agree that this is a very difficult moment. Look, it's a difficult moment for all of us, right? It's a very volatile moment, both in our country and in our world.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what your political beliefs are, what your religious beliefs, none of those things. This is a volatile moment for all of us. Mm-hmm. And our kids are impacted by what they hear and what they see. The headlines are all around. They hear adults talking. And gosh, if you go back to when you were a child and how you would take a simple word or a simple phrase that you heard and it magnified, right? And so that's much of what we're managing right now. We see our kids really trying to wrap their brain around what is happening in our world and how does it impact me. As human beings, we're all looking for stability.
Yep.
Stability equals safety. Mm-hmm. And right now, our world doesn't feel that stable. And so the talents of team members like mine and other therapists are in very high demand at this point, and they should be because they're important.
And there's a shortage as well. Maybe we can chat about that when we return from a short break with Lisette Islas, CEO of Lifeline Community Services. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to our edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest running community podcast in our 19th year, brought to you by the very cool folks at Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades of doing great things in San Diego County. Honored to have in the studio with us today, Lisette Islas, CEO of Lifeline Community Services, joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel. She is the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc. I know, Kristen, we talk about this all the time, but you can't talk about mental health enough. I'm hoping I'm alive when it's not a stigma. We're making inroads on that, but not as fast enough in this area. And you're 100% correct. The people that have your expertise, we need to multiply that by about 4 billion in this world. Why is that such a tough nut? One, it's not an easy field. Two, and you got to be well trained to do it. Are people just not interested in doing it, or not aware of it? It's not easy. All of the above.
All of the above and then some. One of the things I feel really proud of is the work that we're doing to make sure that we bring more people into the field. So every year we have young people with us that are in college and exploring those careers. And we're working with them to make sure that they understand their career options. And then some folks who have already graduated are working towards their licensing. They come to us and we provide them the right supervision and support to make sure that they can become licensed health or mental health providers. And I'm really excited about a program that my team has been working on to expose high school students to careers in mental health.
That's great.
Because I think we don't know, I think that oftentimes we don't know the span of the careers and opportunities that there are there. And so we want to make sure that we're exposing people to the fields and that they see those opportunities for themselves and maybe even get to volunteer in and dabble in some of those experiences. So when you make things real for people, it makes it more viable for them to see themselves as part of that.
Well, I think one of the folks that, and I'm not sure if you met her, Kristen, she was in a panel of one of the Classroom of the Future Foundation events. We call it College and Career Pathways Summit. We've been doing it for 8 years, and she and a couple other high school kids were on a panel talking about what their experiences were in school, and they were brutally honest about what was good and what needed to be improved. We were so impressed with them, we hired them to be an associate producer on the show. They did an 11-part series on mental health. And she's a high school senior, and the other one was also. And it was fascinating on their view of mental health and from their perspective in this area. When you sit down and chat with some of the students, are they saying pretty much the same things? It's all over the board.
I think it depends on the context that the students come from and are working in.
Right.
One of the things that I find very interesting and gives me hope is that young people nowadays they see the world in a much different way than we did. I think when we were growing up, we were taught to be very polished and, maybe not necessarily show some of the weaknesses or cracks, things that we would see as weaknesses in our lives. I feel like that stigma does not exist as much today. And so we are, I think, working with young people who are more open. And yet we, as I said before, we really try to make it feel like we're not doing these traditional therapy sessions where they're feeling like they're really exposing themselves in an uncomfortable way. Oftentimes we buy some pizza, sit around and, chat with our peers. It's group therapy, but they just see it as hanging out with the peers and, learning how to cook a different dish or doing some sort of craft. We really do try to just engage people in things that they might like and then give them the opportunity to explore what might be on their mind.
We work really closely, as Kristen knows, with the San Diego County Office of Education. And I'm not sure if you know Gloria Cerisa, the new superintendent. Shockingly, the very first woman superintendent of the County Office of Education.
Really?
After 76 years, can't believe it.
Okay.
And Latina, very bright, very cool. Her whole focus, and not just hers, but is belonging. And she wants it in every single talk and every single activity and every single touch point. Make sure you're talking about belonging. And that's, she's putting, certainly hanging her mantle on that one. Talk about how critical that is.
It is 100% the most important thing that we can create for people, no matter who you are, right?
Correct.
And we have, as part of this focus that we have on exposing people to the fields, part of what we want to do is make sure that we're exposing people from the communities that we serve to the fields. Because then if you come from the context, you understand it in a different way and you can speak to it in a different way. And so we want to make sure that the folks that we're working with and hiring really come from the context that our young people are experiencing. I think that is one of the most important things that we could focus on, no matter where we work and what we do.
One of the things, and you can jump in on this too, Kristen, that you brought up earlier, there's a lot of noise in this world that's amplified, obviously, by social media. I'm a lot older than anybody in this room, I'll tell you that right now. But definitely it wasn't social media when I was growing up in this area. And now, of course, I'm sure, Kristen, you grew up with it. Certainly Declan, your 6-year-old, has. My 31-year-old who's teaching in the Poway School District. That's amplified these things. There's no question about it. In there can be very positive things with social media. We all know that. And there can be some challenging things, to say the less, maybe more in the challenging than the not in this. But you brought something in that's so true, and actually Gloria brings this up as well. We can't really, if we focus too much on the noise that's coming 3,000 miles away or whatever, we're not focused on the things that are important. Talk about that.
Yeah, it's this moment in time where there's so much going on around us. And frankly, some of it is scary for even us as adults, right? And yet we have to live life and experience joy and celebrate what's good and continue to come together. And so that's what I've been trying to focus on. How do you balance these two things for the communities that we're serving, for the folks that work with me, and for my community at large? And I think that we really need to lift that up in the conversation. Yes, we can be worried about what's happening in our world. Yes, we can do our part to help fix things, but we also should let ourselves experience what's good in life.
Yeah, totally agree. I feel like joy right now is an act of resistance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I went through a period earlier this summer where I had temporary facial paralysis. So I had Bell's palsy.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, oh, boy.
And came with a lot of fatigue, and it came with a lot of headaches. So it forced me to slow down in a way that I had never slowed down in my life, just because I'm a constant doer.
Yep.
And it really made me reflect, number one, on the amount of love that there is in our world. And boy, that love that came towards me from all sorts of places that I didn't expect almost felt overwhelming. I'm used to giving, not receiving.
Yeah.
And so that almost felt overwhelming. But it also made me think a lot about joy. And as you said, the permission to experience joy, even in a difficult moment. So I think, yes, act of resistance. How do we lift it up in this moment as much as we can for each other?
Yeah.
Well, it's up to us. I mean, it's how we're going to, take this on and how we choose to do this. I love doing this show. I've been doing it for 19 years because we get to talk about the great things that these organizations like yours have been doing, and the other that come through this area. We do a special show called Future Pathways Superintendents Unplugged, where we interview all 43 school district superintendents and talk about the 4 zillion great things that are going on in their districts. They're under siege, I'll be very, blunt about it, on nonsensical stuff. And so we can't talk enough about the great things that are going on. What can we do? What can our listeners do to support your organization?
Thank you for asking that.
Please.
So if you have time that you can donate to us, would love that. If you can support us in a small or big way, would be thrilled. We have folks that send in $5, $20 a month, and then we have folks that have more capacity and do that. That is our lifeblood. Allows us to really do the significant work with the kids that we work with and expand that work. And then if you can share information about who we are and what we do, that's one of the most compelling things. Follow us on social media, tell your friends about us, and really get the word out about our services so that we can continue to find more folks that might need us and can use our services.
Yeah, you brought up something Chris and I talk about all the time on our show, almost incessantly since the show started many, many years ago, even though Kristen wasn't with me 19 years ago. But you can't sit there and say there's too small of a donation. Any donation works. And the same thing with volunteering. If it's 1 hour a week, beautiful. I mean, I've been saying this stuff, and if I've been saying it, 4 billion other people have been saying it. It just get involved, and that's the key to that. Is there a website people can go to?
Yeah, www.lifelinecs.org.
Right. What I'd love to do is have you make a return appearance. You got so much great content. And then maybe bring in some people, whether it's a school district or whether it's a family, don't want to break any HIPAA laws, but anything that has said, listen, this has been the benefit of what we've done when we've worked with Lifeline Community Services. So we work with pretty much all the school districts in the county. Would love to have you make a return appearance.
Drew, I would love that. Thank you for the invitation.
Consider that a done deal. Lisette Islas, CEO of Lifeline Community Services. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest running community podcast, now in our 19th year, brought to us by the unbelievable folks of Mission Fed Credit Union, 6 decades of doing great things in San Diego County. Thank you, as always, my co-host, Kristen Fogel, Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc., and to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.